songs today that she wrote. Please welcome Lisa Craze.
Thank you very much. Start with a little country song. About to leap into a new adventure with the deadline drawing near. And out of nowhere came a feeling that almost paralyzing fear. And your words started coming, saying you're not good enough. And ain't no way you're ready. You really think you are that tough? Well, I almost got pulled down. Spent a long and sleepless night when a presence filled my soul and told me everything's alright. You can't fail, I got your back. I'll be right here, picking up the slack. Just lean into the wind. There's nothing that you lack. You won't stumble, you won't trip, you won't fall. I got your back. I pulled myself together and I turned to face the new. But I wondered if those words I heard could really be so true. In a moment I was lifted by a force greater than me, and it filled me with the energy of all possibility. So if ever I lose hope, or if ever I feel fear, I can turn up to the source and know that loving truth is here. You can't fail, I got your back. I'll be right here, picking up the slack. Just lean into the wind. There's nothing that you lack. You won't stumble, you won't trip, you won't fall. I got your back. Why don't you sing along? You can't fail, you can't fail. I got your back, I got your back. I'll be right here, I'll be right here, picking up the slack, picking up the slack. Lean into the wind, just lean into the wind. There's nothing that you lack. You won't stumble, you won't trip, and you won't fall. I got your back. 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 Thank you.
Sal's Got Talent. How are you doing? How many of you are going to see Beck? A few of you, getting ready to pack. 210 people are going to trek over to the Hood Canal and spend a week at church camp. So for those of you that, when I say church camp, you get, obviously there wouldn't be that many people going if they hadn't gone. Well, I mean, it's just a wonderful experience. So you'll find out more about that next week when we come back. Be ready to be in a room with effervescence, let's put it that way. Party room. CBEC, it's a good thing. Our theme for this month, along with many other Centers for Spiritual Living, is beauty, nature, art, and aesthetics. So it's so great that we are actually going to CBEC and being in the midst of gorgeous nature. And I also, this is an opportunity for me to say that as a celebration of art, we have 29 congregants who have gotten so brave that they're willing to share their art with us. So they're on the lobbies, either downstairs and upstairs. So I encourage you to check it out, because even though it's visual art, it's also different and so unique and an expression of their unique beauty. But I want to focus on nature today because I have really taken this theme to heart, and I'm letting nature teach me. And even though I talk about it, you can let it go or not, but I can honestly say that nature is shifting me because I'm allowing myself to become one with nature so it can teach me. I mean, we're always one. I mean, nature and I are one, but to actually become cognizant of what nature has to teach me, I'm learning more balance because nature is balanced. And when it's balanced, it's healthy. So what I've learned is if I'm not healthy in any given area, it's because I'm out of balance. And so I look to go back into balance. I'm also learning to be more generous because nature is generous. The trees are generous. The sun is generous. In certain places, the rain is generous. There's generosity happening, and that's what keeps nature moving and keeps things healthy and balanced is generosity. So when I talk about generosity, I'm not necessarily just talking about finances or money. Although last week I was very generous because I bought dinner and I put a tip on it, and then later I saw that I'd already paid the tip. It's one of those things, if there's enough people there, they just put the tip on. I was generous. That guy was very happy. But I'm also looking at generosity in another way, which is how can I be generous with my time? Can I be generous with my encouragement? Can I be generous with my attention? I'm noticing, and this is just, hello, honey, because he watches these later. Hello, sweetheart. Can I really be generous with my attention with my husband? Like if he starts to talk and the TV show is on, do I put it on pause so I could be paying attention to him? Do you see? But that's generous. There's always ways to be generous, and that's our nature. I'm also becoming aware of that nature teaches me that we are interconnected. I've been studying trees lately, and the trees send out roots, and they're not just for gathering in the nutrients and the moisture that the tree needs. The roots also talk to other roots. So a mother tree in a forest is communicating with all the other trees in a forest. Amazing! They're interconnected. Everything is feeding on everything else and depends upon everything else. And that's healthy. A pine tree does not say, I'm going to share my nutrients and my information with other pines because we have glossy needles. But those oaks, they're just not one of us. Trees don't do that. So I must not do that. And that's natural. It's natural to see our interconnection and our intertwining of life. And it's healthy. Today I want to talk about something else that I've learned from nature, and it's appropriateness. I'm going to talk about appropriateness. Appropriateness is the antidote to complications, as in it's complicated. Now, if you haven't said it out loud, there's been times you've thought it, right? This is complicated. Let me define appropriate. Appropriate, according to the first definition that popped up on Google, appropriate is to be suitable and proper for the circumstance. That's appropriate. It's suitable and proper for the circumstances. And I've noticed in myself and others that I can be and we can be mired in complicated issues. And if we're mired in complicated issues, we can't thrive. I love it that Harold talked about thriving. It's hard to thrive when your chi or life energy is being dissipated in all directions. And there's nothing that will dissipate energy like complications. It's hard to be your magnificent self when there's all these complications, things to think about. I will just throw this out. There's another thing that dissipate your chi and your energy, and that's to be around people who don't support you, who don't support the real you, who don't see you as you really are. To see someone as they really are is a gift. It's generous. It's generosity. If you don't see people as they really are, or they don't see you as you really are, it's draining. How many of you have been around people and after about an hour you're sucking air? You don't do it out loud. That would be so embarrassing. But you feel like it. And you want to take a nap. Anybody after about an hour with certain people, like, I want to snooze. There's something out of balance there. They probably don't really support you. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute, but about what I mean by support. But what I can say is that people that don't see you as you really are aren't really supporting you. So be aware of your friends. I was watching someone recently, and he said that when he asks people what they want out of their friends, what he's told most of the time is, I want someone who will accept me as I am. And he said, I don't want people that will accept me as I am. I want people who will call me up to be who I can be, which I'll talk about in a minute. I mean, really, that's friends that would go through that muck and mire to say what really needs to be said. Boy, that's appropriate. And I'll talk more about that later. It all winds together after a while. So let me get a little bit more about what I mean by appropriateness and what I learned from nature. The tree is appropriate as being a tree. It takes in moisture, gives it back into the air. It takes in carbon dioxide, gives it out as oxygen. That's what a tree does. It does it very well. It does not try to be a sunflower. The grass is appropriate as grass. It doesn't try to be a tree. Insects are appropriate. Possums are appropriate. I'm into this whole possum thing now. I put it on my Facebook page. They have been downgraded too much. When I found out how many ticks a possum can destroy in a week, I'm thinking, go possums. Go possums. You know, they may be, from a judgmental point of view, not the prettiest of animals. But I like ticks less. Go possums. God bless possums. But they're appropriate doing what they are supposed to do in the way they are supposed to do them. That's what appropriate is. Now, they are being the best darn whatever. And we are called to be appropriate and be the best darn whatever we choose to be, which I'll get to in a minute. So, how does appropriateness dispense with complications? First, I need to address why things get so complicated. But before I do that, let's make this real. How many of you are in the midst of a complicated issue? Aha. You are either not as enlightened as first service or way more honest. Because I'm telling you, first service, like I had about 12 and a half people who had complicated issues. So really, think about a complicated issue. And by that I mean there's so much to consider. So many people involved. So much going on. So many choices. How many have been there? How many are there? Because today could be your healing. Today you could get over this. Yeah. I mean, right? Why else come here? You have so much permission to never go to church or a center or anything else when you live in Seattle because nobody else does. But you're here. You're here, and I believe that something new that you really needed to be here because we get all complicated as human beings, individuals and collectively. So why do we let it get so complicated? Well, and I'm saying why do we let it? Because going back about 2 talks ago, I believe that we are creative. Consciously or unconsciously, we're creating all the time. And if it's complicated, guess who created the complicated? We're in the midst of complicated. Now, why would we do that? Why would we do that to ourselves? One, habit. We do not have the habit of just simple. I mean, I was talking to somebody just after first service. It's like they wanted to go complicated. I went, oh, it could be simple. It could just be simple. But what I've noticed is people start to talk about something and they want to talk about all of the things that go along with it because it's not just a simple issue, it's a village populated with all sorts of choices. How many of you are going around with a village? So it could just be habit. It could also be that we're afraid of what we would be experiencing if we weren't living a complicated life. We're also afraid of change. Because if we were appropriate to who we really are, things would change quickly. Fear of change and fear of being ourself and fear of not wanting to step on anybody's toes keeps us in a need for status quo, which is, let's just be simple and be direct. That doesn't work. Our need for status quo has never worked, has it? Have you noticed that you change? How many of you have taken a picture of yourself and then looked at it 10 years later? When did that happen? So let me talk about this in the realm of, here's the situation, the mental situation. For those of you that are playing along, for those of you that are not playing along with I have a complicated life, you just can listen and then buy the CD and give it to somebody. But for those of you that are still playing complicated, who's still playing complicated? Great, I'm talking to you. Let's take it up a notch to the mythic. Because just as in a dream, all the characters are you, in your life, all the characters represent an aspect of yourself. I know, it is funny. Or tragic, depending upon timing. Did you know the only difference between a tragedy and a comedy is 5 years? Really, think about it. The things you laugh about are the things that were drastic 5 years ago. I really need to just be a stand-up comic. It would pay better. Anyway, moving on. So everybody that's still doing, I haven't lost track, everybody that is still doing not drama, but complicated, raise your hand, I'm talking to you, mythic level. Just as in a dream, everybody in the dream is you, so in a myth, everyone is you. I am often, not often, but about once a month, someone will come to me or email me and say, you came to me in a dream last night. No. I'm busy with my own dreams. No, really. I have a life. I am not in your dreams. But whoever you say I am, that aspect of you showed up to get your attention. That's dream work. In mythic work, all the characters are also us. And that's why some mythic stories keep repeating and we keep watching them. Whether it's Hamlet or Lion King. Whether it's Odysseus returning home after Troy or Star Wars. We watch those movies over and over again because our soul goes, that's me, that's me, that's me. So on a mythic level, you are in a dueling contest with two aspects of yourself. One aspect of yourself is your spiritual self. How many of you have ever said the words or thought the words, I'm a spiritual being? I should see some hands. Center for Spiritual Living. Just saying. Who said, I'm a spiritual being? Yes, that's the hero. That's you. That is you. And everything that keeps you small, that part that puts obstacles, seems to be obstacles, creating obstacles in your way, saying things like, we can't move forward, it's way too complicated, I can't even imagine what we should be doing. That also is you. So the contest is always within your own soul, who will take over. In Jewish tradition, it's angels, high thoughts, and devils, low thoughts. And there is this pull between angels and devils. But what it really is, a pull from that spiritual self saying, I can handle this, and the lower self saying, no, we can't, we just can't, we just can't, we can't. I got proof. And then the higher self says, yes, we can. And the lower self goes, no, because, there's so much to think about, and we don't want to offend anybody. And who are we? How many of you have that going on? Am I still relating to those people who live a complicated life? Now, here's the deal. That which is spiritual about you wants to be acknowledged. You're huge. Your soul is huge. And when we come from that place, it's really not all that complicated. It's just not that complicated. We love certain movies and they play for decades because we want to see the hero make it home. We want to see the spiritual magnificence of ourself welcomed to ourself. That's the myth. Now let me give you 3 examples. And we will have also time, I'm sure, for someone who has a complicated issue to get uncomplicated. So it'll be whoever is the most nervous. So let me give you 3 examples. I had an opportunity to talk to someone I love recently, and they were in distress. And the distress came from stuff happening. Lots of stuff happening all at once. Now, I've talked to other people that don't like the distress going out over years. I mean, distress, it doesn't come in a fancy package. You can never say, I would like my distress happening this way. Like, over the years or all at once. Distress is distress. It gets complicated when we fight with what's distressing us. And the fight is usually, it shouldn't distress us. Does that make sense? Okay. So the distress is happening, and all of these things are falling apart, and I just said, what about your soul? And the soul was fine. Balance. The hero was on the set, on the stage, but it needed to be recognized. Because, see, the heroes could also see how that personality had been supported in all these ways. All of these characters in the play, in the story, in the myth were lined up to support the hero to be the hero. But the smaller self couldn't accept that help because they were too busy talking about the distress. Pieces and parts, right? How many of you have a committee in your head? Here's the deal. If you're sitting in this room, I want you to get used to the idea that the world is not here for your comfort. You are here to be a healing force in the world. You have a big soul and you signed up. And when you own that and live from that, yeah, distress will happen, but it's really just an opportunity to prove how big your soul is and how much you have inside of you that can handle things. See, a hero's journey is not a fun story if nothing happens. Oh yeah, Odysseus left Troy, got home, made love to his wife. Big deal. Nobody buys that story. It's not entertaining. But if Odysseus had a complicated journey home, man, that's kind of interesting. But he overcame and he overcame and he overcame and he overcame, and you begin to root for Odysseus. And you get to root for yourself. Look what I did. 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 You are a magnificent expression of the living Spirit Almighty. That's what you are. And it may not be easy, but trust me, when you come from your highest self, you will see that around you is a whole cast of characters willing to support you in what you're going through. Because that's the way it's set up. The other story is about me. See, about 2 weeks ago, I had my feelings hurt. It happens. One of the things that can happen, and the reasons that I can sometimes read a room and know what's going on, and then shift my conversation to meet what's going on in the room, is I'm very sensitive. Well, I was also being very sensitive to someone who didn't say anything, but I just knew stuff, even though there was no outward picturing of it. So in a way, that means there's no way I can really address it, I thought. But it hurt me because they're supposedly a friend. And so I wanted to let it go, so I needed to talk to somebody, so I called my husband, which is a good thing. He's my friend, right? He's my husband, and he's my friend, so I called my husband, my friend, and I said, honey, this happened, and I know what this is going on, and I have tried so hard, and I have done so much, and I've tried to make amends, but I don't even know what I'm making amends for, and I know I'm being criticized, and I can't even talk about it, because there's no conversation. Stop it. You're better than that. You are an expression of spirit, and you're called to love. And what you do right now is you just love her, and you love her, and you love her, and you keep loving her, because that's what your job is, and you're not going to wallow in self-pity. Now get over it and start loving. Now, here's the deal. He is my friend, because he called me into a higher expression of life. He asked me to be my higher self, to remember my hero self, who doesn't get stuck on an island of self-pity because somebody doesn't like me. I mean, when I think about it, really? But how many of you have ever landed on that island? Don't get off the boat. Just don't get off the boat. He was saying, don't get off the boat. Because if you remember the story of Odysseus, he'd stay there for years. How many of you have still winding something up about what somebody may have said? Be yourself. Be who you really are. The last one, and this is my happy dance story, is because sometimes we make things complicated by not turning things over to God. We work it all out, do this, do that, instead of making a demand upon God, because we live in a supply and demand universe. Make the demand and the supply shows up. We live in a supply and demand universe. So my wonderful husband has spent most of the spring and summer rebuilding our barn or I should say fortifying and rebuilding at times our barn and arena, because it hadn't been properly treated when it was built, so all the boards started to warp and come apart. And so he's been putting them all together and fortifying them and doing great stuff, and now it's time to paint. Now, if I had been him, sorry, honey, I may have tried to get a painter in early spring, but he didn't want to get a painter until he was done. So do you know what it's like to get a painter in this area at the end of summer? Really interesting. If you want steady work, become a painter. So we were doing what we were supposed to do. We asked for references. We called people. Some of the people that were called actually showed up and said, I'll get you a bid, but never showed up again. One painter, I guess, is so successful that he didn't even have voicemail. And so Tim thinks I'm going to have to do this all myself, so he's starting to pressure wash. And then he's thinking, I'll get a spray gun, and I guess I have to paint. Now, this is high. This isn't a one-story anything. This is a barn that goes up 3 stories in the arena. It's like seeing my husband on a ladder was terrifying me. So finally, after trying to figure out, let's see, we could invite them, we should ask them if they could help, if they could help, maybe if we got this, and then I'm trying to do all this piecing things together, and Tim's trying to do all this piecing things together, and finally I had it, and I was putting the saddle on the horse, and I just said, God, we need a painter. That night, he tried a number that didn't have the voicemail one more time. The gentleman showed up that evening. He said, I'll get a bid to you tomorrow. He did get a bid to us tomorrow. At 9 o'clock in the morning, he was there with a bid. We put a down payment on the barn, and that afternoon they started. They've been working solid, took just today off. By the end of the week, we will have the barn, the arena, and the house painted. How many of you just make things complicated instead of just asking? How many of you try to figure it out instead of just asking? I was doing a happy dance. In fact, actually, I was obnoxious on Wednesday, because that's the day that the painter had come and give us a bid and then started to work that afternoon. In fact, by the time I was leaving for work, he had arrived with other people to do the pressure washing. I was obnoxious. And what I kept telling people is, this is a minister, high unanswered prayer. Wah! Happy dance. You know. I'm still giddy. Wouldn't it be great if you guys were actually demanding things? And you demanded it from the place of I deserve it because I know who I am? I'm an expression of the Most High, and therefore I now accept And then we would come here and there would be good news time, and whether you shared or not, there'd be the effervescence of faith going on all over the place. Because you know what people need more than anything? More than anything is they need the faith to know that they can have what they want in the world, because everything else is a handout. So prove these principles. And in so doing, you preach the gospel. So, who still has complications? Who has a complicated life they'd like to overcome? What? You ready? Nope. Cindy? You guys kept raising your hand really quickly. I thought one of you is going to do it. Okay, what's complicated?
My company has had flat sales results for the past 2 years, and I'm trying to figure out, is it our marketing? Is it our sales? Do I need different salespeople? Do I need different marketing vehicles? There's just so many variables to pick. And is it our products? Maybe our products people don't want them anymore.
It's a village.
It is.
So you landed on the village of what am I doing wrong?
Yeah, what am I missing? What is it I don't know that other people seem to know that I don't know?
Hold this. Do your own work. Come on. Okay, so take a deep breath. So you know what it's like to be on the island of complicated issues, right?
I could name that island.
Yeah. So take a deep breath. And I know you're really good at imagination, so I want you to move into and access your high, holy spiritual self. And let me know when you're there. And so this is your soul. This is that which is eternal and everlasting, has never been touched by conditions. Can you access that? Okay. You notice that I'm going to put these words in your mouth, but I'll just check to see if you go there. Is that high holy self bigger than you?
Yes.
Yeah, it's bigger than Cindy and her conditions, isn't it? Yeah. So what does your high holy self say about this situation?
I know everything I need to know for every decision I need to make right when I need to make it.
Yeah, you're also smiling. So you probably just saw something, didn't you, that you were kind of surprised at?
Yeah. It was like every decision I've been making for the past 6 months has been divinely directed.
Yeah. So can you trust that it will continue to do so?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you if you get off on the island of the village, you could stay there a long time, couldn't you? But you get back on the boat by accessing this inner wisdom that is actually coming out of you, right? Okay. So you can. So are you willing to make a demand now from this place, not from the village? Because the village always cries out, "Oh, I wish we had a solution." But of course we can't because we don't know this and this and this. So as your higher self, are you willing to make a demand on the universe?
Yes.
And what is it?
Every conversation we have reveals exactly what we need to know and what we need to do.
Okay, how about a bigger demand?
A bigger one.
Yeah.
Okay.
How about big profits this year?
Okay. All right. I like that. Okay. I was starting with we attract the right clients who love us.
No, how about
but I would like to go beyond that.
Yeah.
We're-
Make a demand.
Well, okay.
I was asking that a painter would call us.
Yeah.
And I was asking that a painter would like give us a bid. How about you just want it
Okay.
painted?
It is so easy for us to be in business because we are constantly profitable.
Great.
We have everything we need always.
Okay.
All answers,
Don't-
all clients,
no,
all
is
everything.
is that coming from your highest soul self?
Yeah.
Well, then there it is. Then it's
Yeah.
done. Because Ernest Holmes says it's not what you pray about, it's where you pray from. And a lot of us pray from, it's complicated. So guess what you get? More complications. What if everything you are facing, you drew to you so you could prove to yourself how big you are? Think about it. Everything is so that you can prove to yourself how big you are. Because when you get it, the universe gets it. All right? You ready? Big profits?
Big profits.
This year.
Big profits and amazing clients.
Okay,
that
good.
I love working with.
Okay, then this
They
is...
make me super happy. And they pay early. We invoice them and they always pay early.
I so get it. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Woo! Cindy Clay, thank you for having the guts. And this would be the same for any of you, honey. Any of you. Honest. No matter what you're facing, there is an aspect of yourself that is your own hero, that is not seduced by conditions. And when you talk to it and let it speak, it will reveal a greater possibility for you. In the Gospel according to Thomas, it's written that it is not what goes into you that will save you, it's what comes out of you that will save you. But where are you talking from? Are you talking from your limitations, or are you talking from your greatness? Let's pray. So I just give thanks for this moment. I give thanks for the opportunity for us to come to this place and to realize that we're being called once again to move into our magnificent self, our holy self, the beloved self. So for those of you that choose to, repeat after me in the silence of your own soul, in your heart of hearts, if you choose to, create this vow for yourself. I will be appropriate today and this week and for the rest of my life. Every time I remember, I will be appropriate. For I will be the magnificent self I incarnated to be. I am bigger than my conditions. I breathe into that which is in me that is huge. That is abundantly sharing spiritual wisdom in every moment. I am appropriately, beautifully, magnificently present to everything around me. It's not complicated. It's just a call to be my spiritual self. And that's my truth. And so it is.